Okay, so when you Googled Mark II VR6 swap, you probably came across this list on Vortex that Joe made. This is the list. I'll be going down and kind of showing you everything on the list. I'm going to put the link in the description down below, the first one. But first, I am not the best person to be explaining this swap. I wish someone had already made this video. I'm just going to try to make the video that I wish I would have found, to go along with this list. This is going to be for probably like a beginner or someone, just looking into this swap. So when you're going down the list, there's a lot of options of different things that you can do depending on what you want your car to be. I'm just going to be pretty much going over what I did for my needs in this car. I might have a couple shots of some friends' cars, that did different motors or different swaps. But for the most part, just gonna be sticking to my car, and I'm still not done with my car, so I'll be working on this as this probably video comes out. And again, I apologize, I am not the best person to be explaining the swap. I'm just gonna try to put something out there and hopefully it helps somebody. So when I first got my car and I decided I was gonna do the swap, first thing I needed to do was to find out if it was CE1 or CE2. And what that means is CE1, if it's CE1, if you have a car that's CE1, you have to put in the CE2 wiring harness. So you have to buy a wiring harness from someone or go to the junkyard and strip out a Mark II that already has a CE2 wiring in it, and then you have to put it in your car. There's a couple years that already have CE2 in it, like my car that I got, it already has CE2, so the only thing I needed to do was rip out the engine harness and leave all the body stuff. Next is you probably want to figure out what engine you want. There's a ton of engines you can swap in here. With this list, it's being a VR list, that's what I'm pretty much going to keep going on. So the engine I chose was the 2.8 24 valve. And let me just show you. So this is my 2.8 24 valve that I'll be using in the swap. So after I chose my engine, I chose the transmission I was going to use. I just stuck with the Mark III VR transmission. The only thing I'm changing is the shift linkage. I'm going with the Mark IV shift linkage. And to do that, all I needed to do was change the shift tower in the Mark III VR. So this is the Mark III VR transmission, and all I have changed is I put the Mark IV shift tower in there that I got at the junkyard. Okay, so we have the wiring, CE1 or CE2, we have the engine, we have the transmission and shift linkage. Now I'm just gonna take this list and I'll just keep going down it to show you where what everything is. So starting at the front of the car, and the first on the list is the front motor mount cross member. So this is that cross member that goes all the way across here, and I'm using a B4 Passat VR cross member. Next on the list is the radiator cross member, and that is this piece going on top of it, and I am using just my stock Mark II cross member. And if you see these holes, there's a whole bunch of different ones on there, and I have a Corrado radiator and it fits in there perfectly, and I'll show you. So using my stock Mark II radiator cross member, the Corrado radiator fits in there perfectly. Okay, moving down the list to number 3 is the Kframe or subframe, as some people will call it. I'm using the Mark III VR subframe. Number 4 on the list is A-arms. I'm using the stock Mark II A-arms with the Mark III subframe. If you use the stock Mark III A-arms, it's going to push your wheels out wider on both sides. There is a cool company that makes a tubular A-arm, and I'll put the link down below for that. On my motor mounts, I got polyurethane mounts, and I've read if I want to be able to shut my hood, I needed to cut down my rear motor mount. Next down on the list, number 5, is the steering rack. I'm just using my stock Mark II rack. One more thing on the motor mounts, the top piece of metal here, they need to be in a certain position so you can slide your engine in. And moving down the list to number 6 is your spindles. And this is a spindle. I'm just using my stock Mark II ones. And obviously your brake would attach here. The suspension, your tie rod, which hooks on to your steering rack to steer the car. And then you have your ball joint down at the bottom. If you need to replace your wheel bearing, you're going to have to get this pressed in and pressed out. Next is your axle shaft, and all that does is this part slides right into the splines here. One more thing, before you detach it from the transmission, if you want to separate the spindle from the axle shaft, I highly recommend you get this nut off if you don't have an impact. Number 8 is your brake booster bracket. This is just your stock Mark II one. And how the Mark IIs are set up, they're set up with a cable clutch system. I chose to do a hydraulic clutch system, and for that I need a bracket that had this part on it over here. This is a B4 Passat bracket. And now the hydraulic clutch master cylinder will bolt on right there. There is a company making a kit now that you can keep pretty much everything stock, and they just have a braided cable they run up to your pedals now, and I'll put the link to that down below. Next on the list is your brake booster. I'm just using my stock brake booster. Next is your brake master cylinder. Also, I'm just using my stock Mark II cylinder for right now. When I decide to upgrade the rear to disc, I'll be upgrading that too. And the brake booster goes on. So one more thing you need. So this is the stock Mark II reservoir that sits on top here. You need a reservoir that has this little thing coming off the end. And I just got this out of a Mark IV car, and it fits on there perfectly. So then you'll have your hose running down to your master cylinder down there. To number 11 is your steering column, and that's this piece coming out of the firewall, and it connects to your steering rack down there. I'm just using my stock Mark II one. Okay, so moving on to number 12 is the pedal assembly. I'm using the B4 Passat VR assembly, and with my 24 valve, I needed to buy that adapter that I'll show you right here. And so that adapter bolts on to right here. And this is my drive-by-wire gas pedal that I had to get. So now everyone says to get the manual one, but my friend had the manual setup, and with his pedals being the stock Mark II pedals, they were already really close. So I went ahead and got the automatic gas pedal because I knew I was putting my pedal covers over here. And for now, I'm going to leave it like this because it looks like it's in a good position, but most people just get the manual one. And I'll put a link down below to my adapter for my pedal. Number 13 is the clutch master cylinder, and like I said before, it goes on this bracket right here. I actually don't have mine yet. It's in the mail. It's on its way, and it's from the same thing, the B4 Passat. So 14 on the list, if you're counting, is the heater, AC, or Hvac box, as some people will call it. This is a AC car, so that's why the box is so big. If you have a non-AC car, it's just going to be pretty much right in the middle there. So yeah, it took me a couple days. I got the dash, you know, replaced the heater core inside because I like my cars having heat. Redid the doors inside to direct the heat flow everywhere. And the video that I followed is the Humble Mechanics video, and I'll put his link down at the bottom. He did a really good job of explaining everything and going through it and making sure it's good to go again. And I put the AC box back in because at some point I'm thinking about hooking up the AC to this car again. If I wasn't going to hook it up, yeah, I would have got a non-AC box and put that one in instead. The power steering lines, I'm just using the stock steering lines. The Reservoir, this piece in the back right here goes right here. And number 16 is the brake lines. I'm just sticking with the stock Mark II brake lines. All right, next on the list is the rear beam. I'm sticking with the Mark II rear beam. Next is the gas tank. I'll be getting the Mark III VR6 gas tank with all the lines. To the accelerator cable. So on the stock Mark II, you have a cable going from the pedal to the throttle body. Like I said before, on mine with the adapter, I'm using a drive-by wire pedal. So I have just a wire going to my ECU to control it. So last on the list is your cable shifter or shift linkage. I already said that I'm using the Mark IV shift linkage. This is the Mark III linkage right here. This is the Mark IV already installed in my car. Okay, and we're done. So that's a wrap on the list. With the CE1 and the CE2 in the beginning, I understand you can do it different ways than that. That's just the way that I was planning to do it with my other GTI. You know, I hope this video just provides some information for someone that was thinking that they couldn't do this swap and now they think they can. As you can see, I still have a lot of work to do on this GTI. So any of the parts coming in, if you want to see an install video or you just want to follow along with this GTI or some of my other projects I'm going to be having or some of my friends' projects, just let me know. To be honest, putting this all together took way more time than I'd care to admit. So if this video has touched your heart in any way and you feel like supporting me, I've put a link down below that would really help me out. And just to end it, you know, those people that say it can't be done or you can't do something, you know, just prove them wrong, and I hope this information helps you out.